It's time for another Real Talk session. Stay tuned. According to religion, Ascension in Christian belief is the ascent of Jesus Christ into heaven on the 40th day after his resurrection. According to Webster's dictionary, ascension is the act of rising to an important position or especially moving toward a higher level.
Commander David Fravor still can't explain what he says he saw that day. November 2004, the Navy fighter pilot was on a training mission west of San Diego when he was ordered to check out something in the water not far away. On a clear day, over a smooth ocean, he saw the object, waves breaking over it, and says he saw something hovering above it.
It's randomly moving north, south, east, west, just random, just stopping, going the other direction, like you could do with a helicopter, but it's a little bit more abrupt. It looks like a 40-foot long Tic Tac with...
Flavor says he and his four-man team tracked the object for several minutes until it just disappeared.
Tonight, CNN has learned the Pentagon had a secretive program to research UFOs like the one Fravor spotted. The project was called the Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program, run by an official named Luis Elizondo.
I think this is a national security imperative. We have clear things that we do not understand how they work, operating in areas that we can't control.
A defense official tells CNN the program cost at least $22 million over 5 years before it was shut down in 2012. According to the New York Times and Politico, which first reported this story, tens of millions of dollars for the project were pushed through by former Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid. Those publications say a lot of the money for the Pentagon UFO program went to a company called Bigelow Aerospace, run by a longtime friend of Reid's, Robert Bigelow, a big believer in UFOs. Public records show Bigelow contributed about $20,000 to Reid and his Political Action Committee.
That campaign contributor got research contracts from this program. That just is a bad picture. It doesn't look good for anybody. It's hard to imagine that something that came about that way and profited somebody who pushed for the program was a good use of taxpayer money.
A Pentagon spokesman, in fact, told CNN the program was shuttered because there were, quote, other higher priority issues that merited funding.
It's definitely crazy to spend $22 million to research UFOs. Pilots are always going to see things that they can't identify, and we should probably look into them. But to identify them as UFOs, to target UFOs to research, that is not the priority we have as a national security matter right now.
But pilots like Fravor, who says he saw something, see merits in the program.
What if it is real? Because I think it's real from their side. And what if there's more of these? And what if we do nothing?
Now, just a short time ago, Senator Reid responded to CNN, saying he's, quote, proud of this program and its groundbreaking studies. Speak for themselves, he says. Reid says it's silly and counterproductive to politicize the serious questions raised by the work of the UFO program. The head of that aerospace firm, Robert Bigelow, did not respond to CNN's multiple requests for comment by our deadline. Wolf?
Brian, there's also information that former Senator Reid tried to keep information about this entire program out of public view.
That's right, Wolf. The New York Times says Reid acknowledged to them that he and two other senators, Ted Stevens and Daniel Inouye, both deceased, did not want public debate on the Senate floor over this program. Reid told the Times that the funding for the project was so-called black money, meaning that was secret money for classified programs. They just didn't want it talked about.
Oh, we need to unpack all of that. CNN wasn't fake news on that story. They did drop a lot of facts quickly. Let's level up together and recap on those facts. All the names of the key personalities involved in the previous segment are Commander David Fravor, former Navy fighter pilot; Luis Elizondo, former director of the Pentagon, Senator Harry Reid, and honorable mentions. Well, these guys have both passed away. So, but Ted Stevens and Daniel Edaway, yeah, you know, both deceased. You know. May they soul rest in peace. However, I find it weird that they're both deceased, since they both were against the public knowing about the black programs. You see, maybe they knew too much. Now, some other facts about the last segment was that in 2004, Commander David Fravor, retired, former Navy fighter pilot, stated, on a clear day with smooth water, he saw something in the water with waves crashing over it, with another object hovering over it. The ships looked like 40 feet tic-tacs with no wings. Now, how in the world a tic-tac gonna fly over an ocean with another looking tic-tac on top of it with no wings? Gonna be flying around. Now, we don't have no technology like that on Earth that I know of that can just be floating around in the ocean, okay? We gotta examine what's really going on, all right? CNN, they telling us the truth, but they telling us the truth in a way that is so quick and fast, they just trying to just throw it out there and say, hey, we told you about it, you know? But if you ain't paid no attention, then that's just what it is. And so I'm gonna read on here. Now, it says, for several minutes, the objects were tracked randomly, moving, before it just disappeared. Now, hold up now. They can just disappear. They floating over the ocean. They done tracked them for several minutes. Now, all of a sudden, these little tic-tacs done just disappeared. Okay. But these are regular ships. That's what you telling me? These just regular ships? Huh? That's what I thought. I don't think so. Now, CNN stated this was a secretive military program that tracked UFOs for 5 years. Oftentimes, when the public discovers the existence of certain black operational programs, the government spin masters will come out and say the program was terminated. Yet the program continues. Now, they done probably said they done stopped human cloning and all of that a long time ago. But we know, well, for people who done did a little bit of studying, we know that, you know, basically they've been cloning people since the 30s. Okay, where you think they got this technology from? They had a plan with these aliens, and you know, they really just kind of just throwing out this little area of information. But real talk though, they've been dealing with info. So Luis Elizondo, former director of the Pentagon's UFO research program, stated, "This is a national security imperative." Okay, that means it's very important. We need to pay attention. Wake up and pay attention. Okay. Now, and then it says here, we have clear things that we do not understand how they work, operating in areas that we can't control. Now, of course, they can't control international waters. These tic-tac looking vessels are just floating over in warm areas of the water, from my opinion, probably just sucking up our resources as they've probably been doing for thousands of years. For all I know, they are our progenitors, and they are the reasons why we are here in the first place. But we're going to talk about that in a minute in this Real Talk session. Now, a defense official stated it cost $22 million to fund the program, which is relatively not much when you think about how much the government spends each day. The news understands that $22 million to the average person is going to sound sensationalized, you see. Now, that's just how it goes. Million. Yeah, of course that's going to sound sensationalized. Of course it's going to sound ridiculous to the public. You know, that's a whole lot of money to the average person. Yeah, I get it, but guess what, man? The government's spending a whole lot of money every single day on a whole bunch of stuff. Hammer might cost $2,000 to the government. $22,000, $22 million, $22 billion. It's all printed up by the Federal Reserve. Anyways, war money, war bonds, whatever, it's gonna keep on rolling. Now, let's get back to it. So, the name of the program ain't UFO, like a lot of people might think. The official name of the program, according to the last segment, is Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program, or AATIP, ATIP. They always got their acronyms. New York Times and Politico broke the story that Senator Harry Reid and Robert Bigelow of Bigelow Aerospace were longtime friends. Now they all buddy, okay? So we gonna see what's going on. It was stated that Senator Harry Reid pushed through tens of millions of dollars to the Bigelow Aerospace. Remember they said that in the last segment? All right, I was paying attention. I'm writing it down. Apparently, Bigelow was a campaign contributor that gave at least $20,000 to Harry Reid and his political action committee. So, is it pay to play? Is it pay to play? You know, give me my controller. No, is it pay to play? Is it pay to play? What it is, though. That's what I think it is. That's what I think it is. Because for one thing, that's better than the stock market, baby. If I give you 20 G's and you give me back millions of dollars in contracts, that's the business. All right, let's get back to it. According to CNN, Harry Reid stated that he was proud of this program and its groundbreaking studies speak for themselves. I bet they do. You're dealing with alien technology. Of course it's going to be worth $22 million, fool. What's $22 million when we going out studying phenomenon we ain't never seen before so we can improve our military might? Of course. Now, in this video that's coming up, the next segment that's coming up, we're going to explore the origin of the alien propaganda and if we were seated here on Earth by those aliens, and also, are they our watchers? Now, continue to watch. At this point, I want to ask you to like, subscribe, comment, leave a question. Hey, let's join up, let's join a team. Let's start a party. Let's level up together. Stay tuned.
The copyrighted material from the History Channel is going to be used educationally and under the Fair Use Act. I do not own the copyright for any of the video footage coming from the History Channel or any other source that I mention as it comes up. Thank you for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, and comment. It's time to start looking at reality differently. In this segment, we're going to explore the origin of the alien propaganda. Of course, I'm not going to go all the way back because humanity's history is not written. But we will start with one of my favorite chapters in history, the Egyptian dynasty.
The Nile Delta, Egypt. A small centimeters wide trail is cut in the desert floor by the rolling cocoon of a dung beetle. This strange-looking 2-inch long insect, also called a scarab, uses the dung as both a source of nourishment and a place for storing its eggs. It will roll the ball in a straight line despite all obstacles, and is the only insect on Earth known to navigate by following the light of the Milky Way galaxy.
Wow. I wonder if
Biologists just made this discovery in 2013.
aliens program that
But 5,000
into
years
the bug,
ago, with
into
presumably
the
no
scarab.
knowledge of its unique connection to the stars, the ancient Egyptians held the scarab as a sacred symbol, representing a link to the gods.
Interesting that a great civilization could pay so much attention to a little bug. But it appears constantly throughout Egyptian temples and hieroglyphics. It's a very frequent image. One has to wonder whether
whether or not these beings actually existed, because the ancient Egyptians were incredibly proud in carving their history into countless of walls. And according to the ancient astronaut theory, we all came about through a deliberate mutation of our genes. And so it is entirely possible, in my opinion, that some of those creatures that we see depicted in reliefs and in carvings might have actually existed in the past.
What if we, our world, our reality, was a petri dish designed by aliens? What if we are meant to be on this plane of existence to raise our vibrational energy? Our ascension to energetic beings, not requiring corporeal form, with destination to our gateway sun, is our reason for being on earth. We must ascend. We must raise our vibrational energy.
Luzon Island, the Philippines. 2019. Archaeologists announced the discovery of an entirely new relative of the human species, Homo luzonensis. Found in a large limestone cave, the remains of Homo luzonensis date back 67,000 years. Without a land bridge to mainland Asia, this strange species arose isolated from other hominin species.
So I think when you look at the evolution of humanity and the different species that have existed throughout time, early on we had a pretty simple story. We split from chimpanzees and monkeys, the Homo sapien ancestors developed, and you end up with Homo sapien, and we're the ones that are left. As we do more research in archaeology, we're discovering a wide range of different hominids. One of them is the Homo luzonensis. And one of the interesting things about it is the structures of some of the bones are sufficiently different that it is a different species.
In addition to Homo luzonensis, other ancient human-like species are continually being discovered, like the Denisovans in Siberia and the hobbit-like Homo floresiensis in Indonesia.
Given the great diversity of the number of different species, how is it that Homo sapien ended up the only one left?
All those scientists now believe that at least 8 human-like species once walked the Earth. Only Homo sapiens survived. But why? The answer remains one of archaeology's greatest mysteries.
Could it be possible that this survival, or a reason why Homo sapiens has survived to this day, is due to an extraterrestrial interference?
Are what we're looking at here failed experiments, prototypes? Are we just the latest experiment? Were there previously other branches of the human family that were themselves either created or enhanced, but which didn't quite make the grade?
Is it possible that extraterrestrial intervention could explain the existence of multiple hominin species on Earth and the fact that only Homo sapiens have survived into the modern era? Ancient astronaut theorists suggest that evidence to support this hypothesis can be found in the historical records of the earliest known civilizations, and in particular, the Sumerian stories of the Anunnaki, also called the Guardians of the Sky.
In the ancient Sumerian texts, they talk about the Anunnaki, who were described as being able to fly, having elongated heads, and also being very wise and bringing knowledge and science. It's often said that the Anunnaki were specifically involved in genetic experimentation. And so here we have the story of extraterrestrials genetically engineering people starting around 6000 BC, although I suspect it must go back much further than that.
under the color of law. We are all equal citizens. Without suspending our logic, we know genetically we are all different. What if we are only the latest upgrades of humanity? What if we are being genetically altered by aliens? What if aliens created us with light and spirit and darkness and flesh?
The story about Noah that we don't see in the Old Testament. And the story is that when Noah is born, he's an extraordinary baby with a strange complexion and the ability to light up the room with his eyes.
What's interesting is that you actually have Noah's father, Lamech, questioning whether or not Noah is his son. And this is due to the fact that we have this story about these fallen angels that came down and had sex with women. Lamech confronts his wife, Bitanosh. Is it my son or is it one of theirs?
Noah's exterior
is it my son or is it one of theirs?
Very foreign. His eyes are described to be glowing like sunbeams. His skin is glowing as well. Now that's a very bizarre description. And so one has to ask the question, what if Noah was one of the extraterrestrials?
Could it be, as ancient astronaut theorists suggest, that the biblical figure of Noah was, in fact, an alien being? Is this the reason he is described as having a strange complexion and glowing eyes?
The key thing that's going on with Noah is that he is pure in God's sight, and so is his family. And this purity seems to be genetic as much as what you might call spiritual. And so when God makes plans to wipe out the rest of humanity, what he's wiping out is the extraterrestrial dimension of humanity that has come about through the pollution of human genetics.
Could extraterrestrials have sent the Great Flood to cleanse the earth of genetic mistakes and make Noah the father of a new version of humankind? Leipzig, Germany, 2010. Biologists, led by Svante Pabo of the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology, make a stunning announcement. They have determined that early humans not only coexisted on Earth with other more primitive hominids, they also mated with them. But even more astonishing was their finding that another, as yet unidentified species, may also be represented in human DNA.
Up until now, most people have been familiar with the typical DNA model of human evolution, in which you have a very nicely defined progression from previous types of human or hominid life up to anatomically modern humans. That's not true anymore. And what we're seeing is evidence that there could have been interbreeding with what the actual mainstream media is calling mystery species of humans. An anthropologist from the University of Wisconsin, Dr. John Hawks, did a comprehensive analysis of human DNA going back for many thousands of years, and what he found was astonishing. If you look at the DNA from someone in 3000 BC, and you compare that to the DNA of someone alive today, it has changed by 7%.
Mapping the human genome, Dr. Hawks found that in the past 5,000 years, our DNA has evolved at a rate 100 times greater than any previous 5,000-year period in our history.
So what happened in the last 5,000 years that altered the structure of human DNA by 7%? Is it possible that extraterrestrial humans interbred with us sometime in the last 5,000 years, and that could account for these monumental changes in the structure of human DNA?
Could it be that our ancestors are not only hominids who lived here on Earth, but also beings from beyond our world? Ancient astronaut theorists claim that evidence of this can be found in stories throughout history that depict humans mating with gods.
Throughout world cultures and mythologies, this idea of otherworldly beings, gods, supernatural beings, demons, having sex with humans is very, very common. The way that we interpret that experience depends on the cultural and religious factors around us.
We can read about these accounts of all sorts of weird beings who had their way with humans. All we have to do is to approach these stories and look at them from a modern perspective, to eliminate the always suggested symbolism and look at these events for what they potentially really were: encounters with extraterrestrials.
There is abundant, undeniable evidence of human and extraterrestrial interbreeding. It's in so many different cultures that to suggest that it's all a conspiracy theory or a myth or a fantasy is completely illogical.
Houston, Texas, December 1992. 8 members of the Houston UFO Network separately report being abducted in one of the strangest mass abduction cases in history. Daryl Sims, a former U.S. intelligence operative, conducts the preliminary investigation.
All of these people independent of each other, and to my shock and amazement, they all came back with the exact same story, the same craft, the same entities. They identified each other in great detail. Some of them didn't even know each other very well. All of these people described being taken by a small craft and a small entity, and the entity took them to a much larger craft.
After researching numerous UFO sightings that were reported the night of the incident, Sims makes a shocking discovery.
Someone in Japan had filmed the moon during this time and filmed a massive craft that left a shadow across the moon as it crossed the moon's surface during the same time of the mass abduction. So there was the cooperation that we needed.
UFO researchers following the case believe collective details gathered from the event may shed new light on the abduction phenomena and perhaps clues to understanding the extraterrestrial agenda.
One of the people taken saw a map-like thing on the wall. The map that this individual saw that was on the wall indicated approximately 6,000 years of the aliens' involvement with mankind. We were down to the last small section of that map, which was about 100 years left. What we deduced from the information from the abductee was simply that this experiment, whatever it is almost over.
After viewing the map, one of the abductees was led through a massive hallway to another part of the craft.
It was a huge room of enormous size. I said, "What did you see?" He said, "It looked like a collection, almost like a museum of things that have been collected." They seem to have collected species, animals, people, all kinds of things. And I said, "And what was significant about that?" And he said, "I don't think they were dead. I think they were all suspended animation." This may explain the reason why some people disappear and don't come back from an abduction event.
Do the accounts from the Houston mass abduction event shed new light on the extraterrestrial agenda? If so, might the stories of mass disappearances throughout history be not fantasy, but part of a program to collect human beings and other Earth species? But for what purpose?
Perhaps these abductions are not happening for some random reason. These samples are being taken so that the human seed itself can be preserved in the unlikely event of some mass ecological catastrophe that wipes out human life on Earth as we now know it.
The evolution of humans on this planet has been completely and totally an experiment on the part of extraterrestrials. We'll call it experimental lab process on this planet. Intelligences are cloning and hybridizing and mixing and matching.
Earth could very well be a farm. Simple as that. It's like the island of Dr. Moreau, where we're genetically altered, we're mixed, we're abducted, we're taken, we're brought back, This could be the greatest melting pot of experimental work in the universe. But, as NASA has said, they're going to discover alien life forms in 20 years. I think we will find that creatures on other worlds resemble us very closely.
Could it be that extraterrestrials really have been coming to Earth and abducting large groups of people throughout our history? And if so, are otherworldly beings conducting experiments to upgrade the human race, preparing us to become part of an intergalactic community? Ancient astronaut theorists propose that one day we will be reunited with our alien ancestors. But perhaps, for some of us, this reunion has already occurred. Another large asteroid, similar to the one that is believed to have caused the Great Flood, will eventually strike Earth. It's just a matter of time.
You always have the risk, and of course we've seen it here on Earth, of having large asteroids or comets hit the planet and cause tremendous ecological damage. Right now, all our genetic eggs are in one basket. Whether it's a comet or asteroid hitting us, we are ejected.
In February of 2013, an asteroid large enough to take out all of New York City came within 18,000 miles of Earth. Another has been predicted to strike the Earth sometime in the next 20 years. But if a great flood or some other global catastrophe were to occur today, are we prepared to survive it? And if there really are extraterrestrial beings watching over the Earth, are they likely to be the cause of such a cataclysm? Or will they simply be observers, sitting quietly by and letting nature take its course?
If extraterrestrial gods are there watching us and either aware of future catastrophes or are capable of making them themselves, then perhaps we need to be prepared for that. We live in a precarious point where at any time we could go through another catastrophe. And you have to ask yourself if the extraterrestrials themselves may not create that.
One of the explanations for why extraterrestrials might seek to destroy humankind is because they treat us as their property. They treat us as their offspring, and they're able to make decisions about humanity based on their needs. So perhaps their needs were satisfied and they decided they didn't want humankind around anymore, so it's just as easy to wipe them out as it is to continue to perpetuate their existence.
The evolution of humans on this planet has been completely and totally an experiment on the part of extraterrestrials. If survival is the bottom line, they are trying to get us over some kind of a finish line when we're still alive.
Our survival was ensured by extraterrestrials way back in the remote past because we are their direct offspring. We are their product. They, in fact, have a vested interest in our survival.
Are there extraterrestrials watching over us, even to this day? Not to destroy us, but simply to see if we can prevail over the Earth's next great cataclysm? It is a question we may not have much time to think about, except to consider how much or how many will survive.